Good afternoon, everybody. T.I. Dave here, and I'm here with James Martinez. He's a whistleblower, MK Ultra, media ecologist, radio personality, pioneer in disruptive technologies and their effect on culture, and human awareness from San Diego, California. He's been at the forefront of radio communications behavior modification. After attending University of Arkansas, he began working with retired Federal Customs Officer Lars Hansen, author of UFO and Aliens, Ex-Intelligence Agents, Who's Fooling Whom? A groundbreaking expose on the intelligence agency's cover-ups. He later collaborated with a retired naval intelligence officer, deepening his expertise in citizen-led intelligence and investigative research. I'm glad to have you. Um, I guess could you tell us a little about yourself? And is there anything important you would like us to know?
Sure. Um, I was the working business partner of a gentleman by the name of Walter Bauert. Most people in U.S. culture do not know what that name is. He was the author of the 1978 book published called Operation Mind Control, published by Dell. Um, he basically proved that the church water hearings and the MK Ultra hearings regarding the use of experimentation on the public was operational, hence the word, Operation Mind Control. And he proved it. I came into his universe right after a couple years after college. I left college because I had met somebody in the state of Arkansas, and I was basically told what our state of Arkansas was doing. And that changed me forever, at which time I ended up very curious about what was really going on. And at that time, I was very much involved with um, the UFO community as it was when it first started culturally in the United States. I knew all the people at the ground. And the reason I was brought into Walter Bowert's camp is because I had understood and learned how human alien abduction was being manufactured for political purposes to cover up the real contacts that were taking place. And I had detailed understanding of how that was being done. So, because of that, I was this was in early 90s. I was dealing with Omni magazine, Penthouse magazine, retired military people, and I was involved with the sale of at that time was the first authentic picture of an alien body, which went into Penthouse. And it was right about that time that I came into Walter Bowert's world. And then because of these findings, we understood what all the neuroscience for MK Ultra was for and what it was being used for. So both of us came in at a certain point, and then I worked with him until his death. So we basically did we did many things, but one of the primary things we did was publish Operation Mind Control Volume 2, which was the follow up to the initial book, which we brought together what we knew about the science and how it was affecting culture in multiple chapters. We had many, many chapters and went through many edits. And then when we published that, um, we only published about maybe 500 copies. They're very expensive. They're special researchers editions, and just so everybody knows that it's on the record, we never did agreements with Amazon. We never did get agreements with anybody to do the voiceovers on it. I have done the voiceovers on it myself. It's on Spotify, Operation Mind Control, the Special Researchers Edition. And we didn't authorize anybody to put it to press at all. So if you're buying it off of Amazon, they're already in violation already, and they're going to be dealt with later. And they're already going to get sued for something else anyway that I know about, and it's going to be all over the press.
Yeah, I
So,
got this
yeah,
818 pages off Telegram.
yeah,
There's
yeah. I know that
But it's a
that
shame people are doing that to people's work. You know,
yeah. Well, we were trying to basically cover our costs for the amount of time and effort it would to put all that together because it took a long time to do that, and we just wanted to make our money back. But both of us were our main objective was that to see that the world and the public got it, because at that time, people can't even remember now, communications were totally different. That was the time when you picked up the phone when you were at home and you were attached
Yeah.
to the wall. You had to send a letter of mail and wait. Everything was slower. So
And nobody wanted to admit or talk about none of that. Because I remember a story. I can tell you a story. My dad's pond. He would go out every night and feed fish in a pond, and it was dark. And he come running in. He said, "Hey, there's a big ball of light shining, big ball of light in the air, shining a light in the pond. Get the recorder." And that's when you had the old videotape recorders.
yeah,
So we ran out there. The light was not shining in the pond, but the ball of light was there, and it stood there for a minute, and it stayed there for about 5 or 6 minutes, and then it moved slow, and then it disappeared. Well, my dad said, "Do not go say nothing to she." He said, "I will." He said, "Don't say nothing. You'll get us killed." So it was very, very secretive back then. All that kind
very.
of stuff.
Yeah, it was a totally different world
Taboo.
back then. So all the people that we were dealing with were the top freedom fighters in the world, knew who we were. Colonel Fletcher Prouty, that was Mr. X from Oliver Stone's movie on JFK. He talked to us frequently. He knew the whole thing about the UFO issue and what the plans were and so forth. So we were really looking at and understood that the end goals of all of this were to create a psycho-civilized civilization based upon the merger of brain, computer, and quantum. And back then, maybe 10 people I knew understood this because that's pure sci-fi back then. So we only talked to the true insiders that would have any concept of this because nobody wanted to hear about it. And this was pre David Icke, pre Alex Jones, pre anybody, Art Bell, or anybody in communications that were covering
William
that type,
Cooper.
all of that. I met him and I knew what was going on back then. And it was a very different country at a very different time. So um, we had the top freedom fighters in the world on our board, which was the Freedom of Thought Foundation, which actually is going to be resurrected very shortly here, because we're at that place. And the reason why I'm even doing this and coming on here is to prepare everybody to uh, govern thyself or be governed, take complete control of their entire legal, moral, spiritual life, and take back their power, literally. Now, that's a big chunk to tell somebody that is unaware of what's happened to them, how it's been done, what the relationship is to a court of law, who they are relative to their birth certificate, how they got into this position in the first place. I have hundreds of people coming to me via email and so forth that they all tell me their story and they say, "What do I do?" And they want me to resolve their problem, and I can't take responsibility for resolving the problem, but I can assist them and say, "Look here, do this, check this," and take it in steps because um, you're really in the book of Job in this whole thing because this has to do ultimately about your spiritual autonomy and your right to govern yourself and think on yourself and decide what it is and how to navigate in your own spiritual evolution in your body this lifetime. That's what it's about. And ultimately, all the people that are going to get involved with this, from high brass military to people that are gardeners to people that work in stores, regular job, all of that, all their titles, that's all going to be vaporized because they're going to, the plan is to infuse all of the BCI with quantum, which ultimately will vaporize identity as a whole. Because wherever you think you were as a trade craft and all that, most of that is going to be obsolete, as you know. So this is really the reason for coming on here and warn everybody this is an extinction level event, which your followers probably saw my other interviews, but I'm telling you that this is not a spectator sport, and they're going to have to hold their elected officials responsible for understanding this subject matter first, because unfortunately, and the position that you and many other people are in, your local and city governments, uh, pretty much 99% guarantee you they don't know shit about anything. They're absolutely, totally useless. And the fact they're getting paid these huge amounts of money when they're completely unaware of what's going on, are there, that's reason to pull them out of office or to put in an internal investigation on these city and local people and get on their ass, because you have to make it their problem. Otherwise, if you just sit there and say, I'm a victim, I'm a victim, I'm a victim, you're not going anywhere. That's not going to work. That is not going to work at all. And all the reason I'm saying that now is because, and being semi harsh, is because we're out of time. This is going
Yes,
to
it
roll
is.
out. This is going to roll out. It'll roll out in spots all over the world. The 6G is already implemented and being tested on Chinese people and children, by the way, in China in certain locations. And in other locations, 6G is already out as well. So they're modulating human behavior within those zones. And most people, they're completely unaware of it. And their
Oh,
whole lives are going
6G
to
is
fall.
6G is on our router. When we checked our router, it says
See,
6G.
it's
Yeah.
already there. It's already there. So yeah. So, and they're the people that are aiding and abetting this locally, that own these companies or subsidiaries to these companies, and they need to be put on notice, because the effects of this are what you're going to bring into the public square. Everybody that is seeing this, that's affected or maybe under this, all need to go to the city meetings, wherever they are, and just grill those people in their face and get it on tape. Because the one thing that people are terrified in the electric environment is because we live in an attention economy, and most people, they either really want attention a lot or they don't want it at all. And these people generally, if their ass is on the line, they don't want it at all. So that's why you tape everything. You get recordings and you gather evidence, and you gather and start building cases of individuals that are ignorant morons that are in positions of elected employees, and they're out of there. That's what should be happening anyway with everything. Banking, the health issue, the cops that are dumbasses. I mean, all the things that they're unaware of. You need to assert that and put it into the public square. That requires people, they can't be on the couch in front of a screen 15 hours a day or even 8 hours a day. You've got to completely modulate and come out sort of reborn and come out and take your power back. Because if you're relying on your elected officials to do it, they've got an F. Okay, they have failed across the board, and it's been a long, long time. They have done nothing or addressed this issue. Nothing. Nobody. Nothing. So that being said, your listeners, everybody, you've got to assert yourself onto the issue, because
Right.
everything's contract. City officials, your local government, they're on contract to do a certain job for the public. And they're
Right.
not doing this because they're not addressing. They're not addressing your grievances,
Do
and
you
they need to.
would you say they don't know about, do they aren't I represent, already know, I represent target individual community, and I'm spreading awareness to targets and non-targeted individuals. Would you say they know anything about this program, or
No,
or do you think it's
no, no, no,
shadow
no, no,
government
no, no.
behind the
Look,
scenes?
I've met and talked with a lot of people in high positions with big names and big titles and very successful, and they're just dumbasses. They don't know
So it's
any
in
of
the
this stuff.
shadows.
Totally, totally. Yeah. When a there's a saying. I don't know who discovered water, but it certainly wasn't the fish.
Right.
Yeah, and these people are not aware of their awareness, and they don't know at all. So they're navigating in their universe through a live omission.
Um, I One thing you said reminded me of my dad used to every time this episode on Twilight Zone, if any farmer, librarian, anybody wants to question what he's saying, my dad used to say, "This is going to be one day," and it was this. Just Google Twilight Zone, you're obsolete. And they tell this librarian he's obsolete, and they come and take him away because he's no good no more because technology's done took over. That's where we're at, ain't it?
Exactly where we're at, because people are already noticing it right now because their jobs are, they don't need you anymore. I'll tell you something happening that's right now is all the big corporation, they always use the public for their R&D when they're doing anything. And right now, Amazon, one of the largest corporations in the world, worth billions, they're currently monitoring their employees' brain waves to determine whether or not they're good employees and efficient employees. And then by doing so, a lot of these people have done it through voluntary compliance. They've agreed to it because they're scared of losing their jobs, or they're just doing this because they think it's an interesting science experiment. But most likely, and I don't have 100% proof, that all of this data is going to be used against them because they're going to come back and build the argument in the public square that we don't need anybody with jobs. It's more efficient to have robots. Get out of here. Okay,
Right.
that's happening now, and this is going to continue through the work sector entirely until people realize and put their foot down. So that I know exactly what's going on because I was privy to a phone call that took place in London with a bunch of lawyers that are seeing this whole neurocognitive legal aspect come into view right now. So the TI people, now just to let you know, I was contacted and put in touch with somebody who was one of the top experts in that field. His name was Bob McCrae. And it was my job when I met with him privately in DC to give all the data to RFK Jr., who he's one of the very few people in government that know shit. But he does know this. He knows about this stuff because he's actively involved with it on the field right now with Sirhan, who's still in a big hypnotic trance and doesn't even remember what happened to him. And none of the psychiatrists or anything else can get to unblock those hypnotic blocks and how they were put in place and all these other things. So he knows this is real. All this stuff is real. So he is a guy that is aware of it. But again, and a lot of people criticize him, but that you need to consider when you're judging him that nobody has understood what it's like to have your family members smeared and killed in front of everybody, and the whole entire name for the rest of your life is associated with the assassination of your parents and your grandparents, and you have to walk around in life and try and recover from all that. So I don't
Right.
treat him the same way as other elected officials because uh, he's much more relevant and real. I don't agree with everything he's doing or saying, uh, but nonetheless, I also know that's not a normal person at all.
Right. Could we back up a little bit? Like you're one of the last original whistleblowers at MK Ultra. And could you explain for those that may be watching that don't know what MK Ultra is? And
Yeah, MK Ultra was uh, the name given to the operation that came from Europe in the Tavistock Institute during World War II, primarily, where they were um, understanding and studying human behavior and genetics. And that was brought into the US under the guise of Operation Paperclip. And during that time, people have to understand they really need to get this part because it's key to the whole thing. Uh, when they enacted the National Security Act of 1947, that basically was a decision to fracture free thought. And they modeled the National Security Act after a behavioral condition that's called dissociative identity disorder. Used to be called multiple personality disorder. And when you look up and understand what that means, it means that the whole or the ego of a person is fractured into multiple pieces. And within those pieces, one doesn't know the other exists. And there's multiple pieces, and they show up at certain times when certain stimulus is involved, stress related, and there's amnesia between the components and parts. This is what the National Security Act did. They did it to create that inside the government. Okay. So because if you ask somebody to define what national security is, they can't. Uh, this fractured and created compartmentalization so that these missing parts don't know what other parts are doing. And it's that behavioral science that came into the US. And this was going on during really was magnified during when the LSD was being distributed, because Walter Bower at that time was at Millbrook with Leary and Peggy Hitchcock Mellon. And he was running a newspaper out of New York called the East Village Other. And he was involved in those operations, and they tried to kill him. And they experimented on him, and it failed miserably. And of course, they should never have done that, because then he came out with a book. So this is where the exposure of all the neuroscience came, because you have to understand the DSM-5, the Psychiatric Association, and just the mental health profession as a whole was all CIA influenced entirely. So these are the people right now in these groups that are attempting to legislate consciousness. And
Mm.
your
Wow.
audience, I hope you listen to that real good. They're getting ready to legislate consciousness. They've already started doing it in various forms, because you can see it. You're not allowed to say certain things. They're going to codify that language into law, and not allow you to express yourself if you have certain grievance about a tribe of people, and we all know who those people are. They're going to stop you from having normal cognitive speech as well. It's all being implemented behind the scenes right now. And the purpose, again, of me coming on this broadcast is just to let everybody know this is the extinction level event for you and your children. Unless there isn't a break stopping this, because some people will not be affected by this that are in remote areas. Others that are in dense populations will be they'll probably be swallowed up by it and won't have a chance in hell. But this is what it's all about. And
Right.
the international community, as we speak, I mean, right after I finish talking to you, the international community is having a big meeting in Europe about this from a legal standpoint. Because remember, the law itself as a concept, that's biblical. So, not to go on some biblical rant, but people need to understand this real good. And if they really believed in it, they would be all over it and asserting themselves onto the system. You are divine acts of creation via God, and they're going to cut that out. And your children. Done. Okay. So that's what this is about. Most of the TI community is not responding in an effective way in order to get remedy, because I know they want help and they want all these issues to stop. I get it, because how can you live day to day when your brain is being interfered with and your emotions are being interfered with and your central nervous is being tweaked all the time. So I am aware of all that.
Have you heard of the book Straw Man?
Yes, I know what that is.
Is
Yes.
that a is that a good book? I just wondered because I ran
I don't know
across.
if it's a good book, but I know what it's about, and it's an important subject matter to know as you in relationship to the court. Because if you're gonna go try and get any remedy in court, you have to even understand what that is, and you got to know what jurisdiction you're in. You got to know what and who you are relative to that court, and it's up to you, the individual, to figure that out, because you're all living under the maxims of law. Most of you are 18 or older now, and there is no ignorance under the law, and you're going to have to start learning it, and you're going to have to understand what it means to stand in a court and know and cover your four corners before a judge and be the king.
Right.
When I mean be the king, I'm referring to how you address the court, because you're the king and you're doing the asking. If you ask the right questions before the king or queen, male, female, then you are in charge, because you're forcing them to respond in codified language about who you are relative to that court.
Well, how would you Well, Howard, anybody watching my show who is interested in speaking out and doing something about their self, where would they start? Not knowing nothing.
Well, it take not knowing nothing. Um, well, definitely read Operation Mind Control 1 and 2.
No,
Um,
I'm talking about not knowing nothing about this national becoming a
okay.
yeah.
I would tell them to study law as a layman and use this is where chat GPT is good because it can explain and teach you law very well. And there's tons of material on understanding law and how to represent yourself in court. Because for this, you can't really hire an attorney. They're going to put you in the wrong judge. Their bar is associated with a foreign thing that's not related to you, and they're going to represent you as a fictitious entity to begin with, which means you don't have any remedy in the first place, and nothing's going to happen, and you're going to spin your wheels and nothing will get there. So this is you in the book of Job standing before you and taking your power back. And there's a book called Understanding or How to Represent Yourself in Court. That's a very good book to understand procedure because when that book was being published, it got under a huge lawsuit because they didn't want the public to even allow and understand what that book is. I think it's on its third, I don't know, eighth vision print now. It's very important so we understand procedure.
All right. Have you heard of Roger Sales?
I've heard of that name, but it's not familiar to me.
Okay, because he has a website showing people in numerous videos on how to do that. But don't you also have a affidavit or something that you could fill out? Could you explain how that works on your patron channel? Because I've been asked about it by a couple TIs.
Yeah, I will. What I intend to do on my Patreon channel, just for the record here, is they'll get firsthand intelligence as I get it about who I'm talking to and what's going on. So I don't. Part of the horrible situation is that you're not getting firsthand intelligence, and it gets strung down. And by the time the public finds out about it, that happened 10 months ago. So you need to hear it as it's going. So that's I'm going to provide that on that Patreon channel, but I'm also going to provide addendums to additional documents that I'm going to be filing and how I'm going to do it with the public county office, with the UCC, and with possibly the county recorder and public newspapers that I will assert and make public announcements in, because it's really about that you're making a declaration on an area that they haven't codified into law yet, which is why I'm asking the public to learn that and put that first. So you're first in the square. Because if you come into the field or the court, it's he who leaves the court, the battlefield first, and the person who comes on first and leaves first. Those are the key people, and you need to come on first and assert yourself to the authority figures that represent law on this particular issue, neurocognitive liberty and protecting the right to free association and you running your own brain without any interference by the corporations. Because remember, and this is important to bring up for people that understand this, all of that are everybody's that using computers and cell phones that on a daily basis. None of you are reading any of the update applications or contracts. You're doing it all by voluntary compliance, which gives them the right to steal everything and do everything against you because you haven't rebutted. You haven't said, no, fuck you, we're not doing that, because you're not clarifying what this means and you're lying to me about what you're doing. It's deceptive language that they're using.
Right.
Language is a technology, but in law, it's a totally different technology than the language that we're speaking. It's codified differently. And that's the public really doesn't understand that. And that's how they hide. They
So
hide.
basically what they're going to do is so that I've read the affidavit and so you're claiming freedom for nobody has control over your brain and a lot more than that. But so you're saying later on, and I've heard this before, it's going to happen later on. They're going to say blah 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 blah. We own your brain, basically.
Yeah, those are the people, like, for instance, the people that have
And
had
this
that, you can prove it, they own your body. They wrote it. in the agreement when you took it. And your doctors lied to you about it because they didn't
I
even
have to
understand what
edit
they were
that.
giving to you in the first place. They didn't tell you dick, nothing. But whose fault is that?
That's
You know, let
the
me put
people
it
who
this way.
took.
That true. But when you get a credit card, do you read that credit card agreement? Do you understand the contract? No, you don't. 99% of the people don't. And they don't
Yes, you would.
understand any of these contracts. And in order to take your power back, you have to understand contract, commerce, and these things that you agree to. That's how they get you. Because if you're
Wow.
not willing to read and understand what you're agreeing to and affirming with your signature,
Right.
with the collateral that they own, the fictitious entity stillbirth of your birth certificate.
So even
They
if you did the affidavit, it wouldn't work.
no, because you've not returned the bill of lading back to the source. That's a whole separate thing, and I'm going to
Right.
get into
Okay.
that on the Patreon thing. So there's these legal steps that I want people to understand that are for their own benefit. Because in order to make an argument and rebut, you have to be in the right position to do so. It's a timing thing and it's a location and venue thing to get the proper remedy. Because the reason you guys have that in the first place is because you've been damaged. You want payback. That's what you are interested in doing. You're not going to sit there and be victims for the rest of your life and take shit. It's just not going
Right.
to work. It's not going to work because the problem is, and for the people that are doing this, is they think they're invincible, and when they're not, because they tell you what they're going to do to you, and then once it's laid out in a seductive manner and you agree to do it, now you've agreed to it and you haven't rebutted, and you do it. Some people do it by silence, acquiescence. That if you don't say anything and rebut, they're going to just keep going. So this is a lot of you got into this position by voluntary compliance. Many of you got there because you weren't reading, you didn't understand. And I'm not saying that to talk down to you. I'm on your side because for this, black, white, red, yellow, brown. I don't care what your color is, what your background is. You're going to get your ass kicked in by this unless you deal with it. So I intend to use this thing as to bring everybody together into unification. They really don't like that.
Right.
Not like that at all. So that works for you, not against
In the meantime, I have a Navy buddy who is a target individual, served and he can prove it 20 years. He's getting microwaved and stuff. Is there any way to protect yourself from that? Would you say, do you have any advice about that?
it depends what the microwaves are, how strong they are, where they're coming from. I don't. It's very difficult to say with any accuracy because I don't know the pertinence. How is it nonstop? Is it once in a while? Is it every other
Non-stop.
day? Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, you need in order to defeat that or do some kind of countermeasure. You got to be able to find out where it's coming from and how to test what what you're in the room or whatever that you're not getting hit by it. There are countermeasures, but it gets complicated. It gets very complicated technically because people are making a huge business out of this right now. There's just countless companies that are selling EMF wear and stuff to protect yourself from the computer and this and that. And most of them aren't even scientifically fully tested. Some of them are. It's a huge industry because they know people are getting sick, and this is affecting your biorhythms. It's affecting biological impact on your digestive system, on your brain, your central nervous system, all of it, all of it.
Right. I heard you say on the other program, uh, for something about going in nature for 3 days and
Yeah, that's a media
with
fast, and
nothing.
that's yes, this is called a media fast. A media fast is something where you unplug and you go into nature to reset your entire central nervous system with no technological influence. This is very difficult for people to do because people have schedules and work and but it can be done. Where there's a will, there's a way. And what I would suggest people do to give their nervous system a break and remember who they are is to go into nature, way out in nature, where there's almost no signals or any interference, and go out there alone or with a loved one or whatever, and there's no stimulus. That means no TVs, no movies, no books, no computers, no phones, iPhone, watch it, nothing, nothing. And you go out there and you just do nothing. You have to learn how to be still again, re-regulate your system, and then something very interesting happens. Very interesting happens. They don't want you to know this. Your whole regulatory biological system resets and your brain slows down. You think much more clearly. There's total way less agitation. Your food digests differently. Your taste bud and your need for food changes. I would also recommend, if somebody do this, the best way to do it is to do it in conjunction with a fast. And here's what you will get out of this. Everybody can do, there's plenty of research on fast. It's one of the freest and best ways you can do anything for your body. But when you do it in tangent with this, then you're really doing a media fast and a food fast. And what you will get as a reward out of this is not only will you be able to establish contrast, which is important in understanding. Most people have been living in this electronic cesspool most of their lives. They don't even know what it's like to regulate their central nervous system at all, because you need to know what it's like. Because if you don't know what it's like, you don't know who you are, because you're being simulated way too much. So if you go out and do that, I would say if you can get it for a week, no reading material. You just cook, take walks, relax, fast, and do that for a week. You will come back. It will feel like I went into the jungle for weeks. Then I came back and I flew into Heathrow Airport, and you could feel the absolute bombing of Wi-Fi, radio stations, shortwave, longwave, all that frequency bombarding you. Then you go, wait a minute. Now you know what's really going on. Most people they're numb in it. They're totally numb, so they don't know what it's like. And that's what I recommend people do. Everybody that's targeted, you need to do that to find out and have contrast, but also understand who you are is related to all of this stuff, and then act accordingly once you have contrast, because then you'll know what it's like. Because that I met with targeted people in Texas. There was a meeting set up by the attorney that filed suit against in Texas, Anna Toledo, and she introduced me to different people that were having that issue, and they're all hanging out in the same venue and location with their hats on and their ice packs on their head, and they're all complaining and everything else. And that doesn't help you. You need
Right.
to get out of the local area and give your system a rest. Very important.
Yeah, because I got lost in the Chapel Basin. Long story, but I was there 30 days and no phone, no nothing. And was sleeping on the floor of the swamp and everything. I still heard V2K, but man, I was grounded. It was one of the most peaceful times of my life, and I was lost. Gators surrounding me and everything. Like it was peace, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so I told you that they read mine and Holly's vitals remotely, and how are they able to track a person without their? We know this, but how for the audience, could you tell them how they're able to track a person with vitals and track a person without a phone, and elaborate on what you said about
Do it via
how the
satellite.
Neuralink. You don't need a chip to do Neuralink. Could you
Now,
kind of explain this?
Musk is everybody associates Musk with the transhumanism because he advertised Neuralink, and we're going to put a chip in your brain and blah 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 blah. But he's not even relevant in the brain computer interface quantum community. He's not big at all. He's he's done everybody by a favor in terms of letting people know that this is going on, but he's not an authority figure in that area at all. Other people with more money and more influence and whatever are directly involved with that. BlackRock's involved with it. The Chinese are heavily involved with it. The Soviets are involved with it, and the U.S. is involved with it.
Right. But as far as tracking somebody, like I threw my phone away in 2018, and I hopped on a freight train in Atlanta and fell asleep, woke up in Shreveport, um, their surveillance team or whatever, and everything started back all right again at about 15 minutes after I got off the train. Uh,
Well, there's people have to understand there is satellite overwatch for everything, and they can see, the ring on your hand, and they can also map you biometrically from satellite, and then go in from the biometrics and seek you out. There's other ways of doing it that are even more thorough, which have to do with depends on if they have data on your genetics, they can track you that way too. DARPA is doing it, and NSA is doing
is there
it.
any way?
People need to know, just this is an important slice of information, that when they filed and they set up the National Security Agency based upon the National Security Act in 47, they are, it's tough to estimate in something that people can understand. They're 5, 6, 700 years in advanced technology, at least. So they've got tactical advantage over people. So a lot of things that people are seeing uh, is being done for theater, political purposes. So,
Right. And that's what you said in your other one. The bombs and the bullets are just for show. We're way more advanced in weaponry
oh
now.
yeah, that's not even relevant. Everything that is in the alternative press, the people that will be key figures in the alternative press or the corporate-owned press, most of it's misdirection. It's capture, captivate, get more followers, and get paid. And uh, there's some people that won't even discuss what I'm talking to you with because they'll block it out because they don't want to understand it and deal with it because they'll ultimately have to simulate the ugly truth of the situation is that
Right.
this is where we're headed.
Yeah. And if they keep not understanding and not wanting to deal with it, we're in big trouble.
It's correct. But I will tell you, because I know for sure that key figures that everybody's heard of are being sequestered to discuss this. And I'll be surprised if the figureheads that are going to be spoken to will have a decent understanding of it. The only person I know that's a public figure that I mentioned before that has an understanding of it because I was interviewed by him as RFK Jr. That I know for sure. The rest of them, not too much. They know some, but very limited information
Does
about it.
Trump even know?
I doubt it because it's not really his field of understanding. Because this is about uh, technology dictating modality. Which, when I say that, I mean technology dictates the modality of the sensory inputs which you associate and reason to say what is happening in your reality. That's what they're doing, and they're doing it in a very, very, very clever, systematic way. And that's just not. He's a builder and a ones and zeros guy, money guy. I've talked to some of his attorneys about it, and I had to make repeated phone calls to explain it to them because they didn't have the. That's not their field of expertise at all. Even though I gave them references and enormous amounts of data for them to review. Um, they were reticent, they were scared, they were overwhelmed, and they didn't even know what to say in many cases. That's quite common. So, again, when people are out there, why isn't this person doing something and why isn't this person doing? Because they don't know or they don't have the capacity to fully understand it or they have a small morsel of information. So
Right.
they don't know.
I talk to a lot of people who email me and say, David, my communications are being messed with. I can't get, they're not letting me get phone calls from family members. They're screwing up all my communications. Is there anything they can do about that? That's one question they're wanting to.
Well, just
Once it's screwed, ain't it?
everybody's communications in the United States, all of them are surveilled. Okay. There was a movie called Enemy of the State many years
Yep.
ago by Will Smith. It was about the character that um, the he's since died, the actor that played the lead role in that next to Will Smith. But the story is about surveillance, but that's based on a real character, a real person, and that real person that with the basis of that movie was a close friend of mine, and they have everything you've ever said on the digital line. Everything. It's all archived. It's underground. They have it all. So forget the people that think they're special and not being surveilled. Everybody is. Everybody has a
Right.
digital phone line, and less so, I think, for satellite phones. But I can't be 100% for sure. But everything for digital phone, it's they've got it all included when and that includes when the phones were stuck to the wall too with a cord. Not like
Right.
they've got everything, so it doesn't mean anything really.
And there's no way to stop. I'm talking about like uh fa- people will find out like 2 months later that five different people tried to call them and they didn't get the call. Like they're messing with communication, stopping
Yeah,
it.
they can do that easy.
There's nothing
They
they
can
can
do
do
that
to
very easy.
stop it, is it?
And it's worse because they're voice cloning now too, so you don't even know if the person's calling you is for real.
Right.
So we have a national security problem. I can tell you that because I've talked to other people about that. That they're creating the banks that are financing all the technical companies, and they're getting faster and faster. They're basically creating a situation where they don't know what real intelligence is because they don't know what's real and what's not. So you've got to authenticate videos, authenticate voice data, all that stuff because they can clone it. Because companies are cloning professionals now. It's already being advertised in Silicon Valley. So you can clone like your digital self that's a lawyer, and then the digital self lawyer can go have private meetings on your behalf and make money talking to the
Mm.
public while you're at
Wow.
home in the pool. So
Wow.
this is what's going on. And this is what's rolling out. And again, you use this, you agree to it and alter the terms because everybody agreed to all the terms for all their social apps. So they own everything, all of it.
Right.
And they use that data and they make enormous amounts of money. And it allows them to take the data and get to know you better. So you live in what looks like confirmation bias box.
Right.
So your reality around you, the place where you have incoming data that's wired to your nervous system is mirroring back to you, your world. So everybody's experienced this. We know you'll be thinking about a song or something or a product associated with a song, and all of a sudden you'll say it to a friend or whatever, and then it shows up on YouTube in the advertisement.
Yeah. Or you talk about something, you turn your TV on and the ads there. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah.
I'm my favorite chapter in that book is about Project Green Star, how alien abductions was being done. But it wasn't aliens, it was black projects that were using mind control technology and all that to complete that. Do you think part of the goal of that was to build up to Project Bluebeam? And do you know
Yes,
much about this
absolutely.
project?
I know the whole thing. I
I'm
was
talking
there.
about Project Bluebeam. Do you think
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
coming soon?
Yeah, yeah. They're doing it now already.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
today. That's
Right.
active in the culture. And that's going to be used for perceptual management to put it's just really designed to make money because the defense contractor, I mean, there's no humanity has not figured out how to make peace prosperous, financially prosperous. War, that makes a lot of money.
Right.
So they need to create an enemy when there doesn't need to be one necessarily. And I'm not saying that there's no validity in being prepared for a hostile race because in way back when I was given all the data on this, um, it was for to essentially prepare the culture for a psycho-civilized environment that is fused with quantum and higher intelligence in extraterrestrial presence. And that's like now that they're talking about it in Congress, and I know all the what's going on exactly with that. And a lot of the players that people associate with are working for the defense contractors to negotiate a deal to put themselves in a key position so that when they come out with, um, for instance, 0 point, they can have authority over it and authority over the technological effects that it has in culture financially, because money's as a concept is going to be erased, and that's problematic because you have cold fusion coming out. I'm very much a part of that. I'm directly involved, so I know all about it, and other tech that obsolesces everything in terms of scarcity on this planet and how that operates in a unified new financial system that'll be gold backed and so forth. So it's a very tricky game that they're playing behind the scenes, and they've got to uh, get everybody into a certain state of mind to prepare for the inevitable, because they want to be able to be the authoritarians when this extraterrestrial issue can no longer be manufactured. And it's like, for instance, people have seen the movie Arrival. With that, something like that needs to happen in order to allow humans to stop looking up to authority figures for information, because that's what they're really afraid of, is that you're not going to give a shit about what president whatever says or whatever. That's what they're concerned with. They want to be in charge, and they want to have authority to control the destiny of culture. This is why a lot of it's being done. So I know who the players are and all the bullshitters as well, but I was there at the beginning for all that.
And people who want to read Philip K. Dick, I've read A Man in High Castle. That was a good one. Minority Report is a real good book to not the movie. The book is better than the movie if you really want to know, you know, what's fixing to happen and where we're headed. Because this people think, oh, it's just a book, but we're there. We're
Yeah,
almost there.
yes, we're there. One of the things that they're doing uh, is getting you, and I have to rebut the situation right now, because anytime you're traveling now, they're going to get you to voluntarily comply, like it's no big deal to put your face in the camera. Now, when you do that with DHS, they don't tell you that's optional very well. They put it on a sign, and it's kind of like when you get a credit card agreement, it's 50 pages long, and the type is this big. So you have to get a magnifying glass to see it. And that's how they present it to you. It's a very deceiving contract, because nobody even understands it in the first place. That's another thing. But it's the same thing with this. They tell you when you put your face data into DHS's systems, they tell you in the sign next to it that they're only going to have it online for 12 hours. Then they get rid of it. Sure. No, they're not.
Right.
But who's going to check that? And who's going to assert themselves with DHS and put a claim in asking for where their data is?
Right.
Nobody's going to do that. And they know it, because
But that's
people
what should be done, right?
absolutely,
Right. And if
absolutely it
people were
should be
paying
done.
attention to the news, they caught eight, I think, or maybe seven, don't quote me on this. They caught quite a few of the escaped inmates through facial recognition. And one of them, they
Yes,
recognized his face and he was looking down like that.
that's to tell you, that's to show you, slaves that we're going to slaughter and kill off slowly, what we're capable of.
Right.
Just submit, because you can't hide.
Right.
But you, but the truth is, and they don't want you to know this, that you can hide. Invisibility uh, will be the greatest art form of the 21st century, as a colleague said to me once. And I would say that because it's within that invisibility that is unseen by the surveillance and the keyhole 12 and 13 and 14 and all the satellites that are above you watching. Um, uh, Again, it's going to come down to who owns your image. You do, but you haven't declared that.
Right. And I've already, I've already had, TI's, well, Patreon costs money. Well, the affidavit's not going to do us no good. They're already doubting. Could you explain, I guess how to become Do you have any info on your channel on how to become liberated and come and and submit the affidavit and all that?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about it in detail. I have not had the chance to do that because I work alone. I'm not affiliated with anybody. I contract out, do contract work, and consult for companies and governments, and that's it. So everything I have to do myself. Now, uh, it's a suggestion to do the declaration. It's not required. I'm recommending it so that you have the ability to have some type of remedy. But all those people in the TI community, if I talk to them, I guarantee you they don't know shit about how to handle themselves in court or really know what's going on that level. And I'm not talking down to them. I'm on their side. But if
Right,
unless you know that stuff and are willing to go in pro se and actually do something, that's of their, they need to understand that part because you know this is your spiritual evolution here. In order to take back your power, you're going to have to learn this stuff, and you're going to have to understand that you have rights, and most people don't exercise those rights because they don't know what they are. The general person in the US doesn't even know the Constitution very well at all, and they don't know how they've gotten themselves into debt and what was done there. They like blaming people though, but they don't care, the people that are doing it, because there is no ignorance under the law, and most of your people that are listening are 18 years and above, and they can research and they can find out all this themselves, but few do that. I know a lot. I The reason I've set up that Patreon account is I want the serious people there,
right.
the
The
ones that are
thinkers
gonna
who are
the
going to
ones that
try
are
to
gonna
take
go for
action.
it. Yeah, because I realize that this isn't for everybody, and some people are supposed to be cooks, and some people are supposed to be mechanics. I stay in my lane, and I don't go into other people's lanes, and that may be what they're best at doing, and they don't. This isn't their area of expertise, so I'm offering a solution. But it also is a solution that requires a lot of work on your behalf because I can't go to court for you, nor should I,
Right,
because I'm not in charge of your spiritual evolution. And I say that because that's where this is heading. You're a divine act of God incarnated here for a specific purpose. And now you're coming to the gate where you have to make a stand and cover your four corners and say, I'm not participating in this. And if you do this against me, I will file claims and then they will be dealt with. And
right,
that's a separate thing. And I'm not going to go into that in the public arena here for a specific reason. But
right. Can
that's
I
what
ask you?
I'm getting people to. I want people to assert themselves and govern thyself or be governed.
Right. Can I ask you, what about the TI who has complained about all this and gotten a diagnosis and is getting disability or something like that? Is there any way out for them?
I don't know because I don't. First of all, each case is different. I have loads of people come to me and say, "This happened to me. This happened to me," and they roll off 5 pages of the whole story and whatever. And of course, it's in the phonetic alphabet. It's a recall situation, so they're coming off of memory. I don't know his pathology. I don't know who he was before it happened. I don't know who he
Right,
was after it happened. I don't know anything about it, and they're expecting me to tell them how to fix them and what to do. And if I had the time to really dig into that, because I'd want to know what happened specifically, and I had the time and the money to do it, I would do it.
right.
But I don't have time to do that, and I don't want to advise, suggest, or anything else something that may be wrong
Well, I appreciate your on.
for
Yeah,
them to do
that was a
because
question somebody asked me to ask, and I said I'll try to see if he knows. But
yeah,
I
yeah,
know
yeah,
how I know how it goes because we get emails too, and we don't have answers, and sometimes people get frustrated. And
yeah. But that all I'm saying is unify all these people and tell them to hold themselves in the bullpen there with your peeps, and then I will give announcements and stuff that's going to be coming regarding all of this that should be beneficial, at least because you'll get real time intelligence on it that is uh, will alter your perception on it because this is, you're not going to get a second chance here. they fully intend on moving straight ahead. Now, DARPA's just made announcements that they're not even they're not even asking for permission. They're coming out and saying DARPA's going to be coming out with something called mind theory, where they're going to come out and map everybody's brain. And if you look it up, they've already made public announcements about it.
And they
Uh,
done mapped our brains, I feel like.
yeah, and here's another thing that may be helpful for your peeps is banks. They're in big trouble. So the banks who have basically financed all of this behind the scenes for years, all the families that make up the World Economic Forum, they know that you cannot have banking under quantum conditions because all that data that's being held about somebody's money can be all vaporized. There will be no privacy under those conditions at all. Any contract that a bank has with a client is done because they will come out and say our systems are secure, our systems are quantum resistant, blah 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 blah, and it's all bullshit. All bullshit. They're done, those people. They know it. They know it. So everybody's going to get screwed on this deal sooner or later in some area. So your people that are suffering, and I have enormous empathy for those people that are at home alone. They don't have any money. They don't have any future. They're stressed out. They have fucking migraines, headaches every 10 minutes. All they can do is eat to make themselves feel better. They have anxiety, blah, blah. I know all that. I know all that. And if they're in that position and highly stressed, then I understand if they're a spectator or whatever. But I can't be them to get them into a position where they're helping themselves. I
Well,
can
can you
give,
advise me how to help them, maybe? Or where to start, how to help them?
yes, but it's a much more
Oh, okay.
detailed conversation.
All right.
And I want to do that in a way where I know the people are going to actually take action and do it. Because it doesn't matter to me that they want to come in and listen, but it's more effective for everybody if they actually do something. Because what has happened, and I know that has happened, I'm waiting to hear back what's going on, is some of these statements have been recorded orally in a courtroom. And the people within the court, they don't even know what to say because it cancels everything that they have to say. Because you can't cross-examine any witness for any murder case in this country effectively if you don't know what any of this shit is. Because all those people, they could have cookie cutter memories put in, they had screen and scrambles put in, they're not credible as a witness because their brains have been screwed with. They can screw with everything. Okay. So this is why lawyers and all their bullshit isn't going to work. They don't have an argument. They're screwed. So what I'm saying is that I think, and based on conversations that I will have this evening with high level people that are in the court system, is they know they're screwed. So they need to act and do something about this. They can't just sit around as spectators. It's not going to work.
Right. Wow. You have any questions, Holly?
Yeah, has he received any backlash for speaking out?
Oh, have you received any backlash for speaking out?
Some, yes. I've already had like some so-called people that are Illuminati representatives ask me if I want to join, bullshit like that. Um, people, the church has now contacted me. I did my first interview with the church, which is exactly what I wanted to talk to, because if they were real Christians, they wouldn't sit around and bullshit. They'd actually do something. So I'm getting involved with the church, and because I'm implementing that declaration in another country in about 3 days. Because I'm involved with two governments that are collapsing and about under reconstruction right now, and they're going to be reconstructing with this policy in place because a lot of the elected presidents of countries have no idea what's going on at all, especially the African countries. They don't know shit, nothing. and they need to know all this stuff. So what I'm saying is more people find out about it in key positions, their ass is on the line too. And what I'm saying is more and more people are going to get involved with this because they're going to have to for just to survive. Because how do we know the senators, Congress people, and all those people that they're of sound mind?
Right.
We
Right.
don't.
We don't.
No. So when I was meeting with Bob McCrae about Havana syndrome, which is tied into all of this, he said to me, the DOD do not want to make a public statement about this because if they do, the public is going to expect what's the countermeasure to deal with this, and that they don't have one. That's why. That's why it's not being addressed, because they don't know what the fuck to do and bullshitting everybody.
Wow.
Pathetic. It's pathetic. They've allowed this, and they don't realize that they'll be a victim of it too. And all the other shows that people are talking about, what Trump's in the war and the Russia and the peace meetings here and da da da, that's all just noise to keep you occupied.
Yeah.
Talk about something of a lot of this technology, and they're going to end up killing each other anyway, but they don't care.
Wow.
So, everybody's vulnerable is what I'm trying to say. That
Right.
includes me. That includes me.
Right. Wow. So
But I'm getting ahead of it really loud this time because I'd had to have long, extensive, reflective sit downs with people and decide if I wanted to talk in public. I'm not responsible for the public, but the only way to win is to inform the public because there's strength in numbers. And there is a positive to all of this. And I want people to realize there's a positives because this will unify everybody. Black, white, red, yellow, brown, doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The American Indians in this country, which most Americans don't even know about, they know exactly about this. And you know why? They had advantages because they didn't trust any of us that were white in key positions in the United States because they've had every treaty violated. So they have a tactical advantage because they don't trust anybody anyway. So when I went to go talk to the Lakota Sioux government and their leaders inside there, because they know me, they knew exactly. So they put that declaration and it's been discussed in their minutes. So
Wow.
nobody knows that. That's the first time I've said it publicly, but they know,
Wow.
and other people know, because they're recodifying their language and setting up their own courts and actually acting like sovereigns and real people that have a right to exist and a right to be here. That they're very key people that Americans and other countries have no idea about at all because they're ignored by everybody.
Right.
They
Right.
know this shit. They know because I knew Russell Means. I knew the key people that were a part of the American Indian movement. So, and other countries are being advised right now. I will be talking to the people in another country very shortly here.
Right. Well, I pretty don't you think we've covered
Yeah.
most everything?
Yeah.
I really appreciate your time because and people can laugh at us and think it's all conspiracy theory, but they need to listen, and I hope they listen. I hope it takes bringing somebody, a whistleblower in that maybe they'll listen because that's been my whole goal the whole time I've had this channel is to get people to listen to what's going on. Now, I'm more enlightened because I did not know none of this stuff, so I'm going to have to play catch up and trying to learn this stuff and
It's
responsibility.
okay. It's okay. That's why
Right.
I'm doing this. I'm trying to fill in people's gaps. I'm on everybody's side here. I don't like what's going on. I don't like hearing, and I had to tell my wife. I read off various emails to her, and she's like, "Oh my God!" And how come this is happening? And da 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 da. And I'm meeting with some of Trump's people out of country shortly, and it is being addressed. And you are doing the right thing, educating people. If people see this and they don't believe it, that's fine. It's not up to they have a choice. They have free will. It's their own evolution, their own spiritual evolution. They can choose to walk the path however they want to. I promote freedom of thought, and the right to govern anybody's own consciousness. And it's nobody else's business where you're at. And the decisions you make, whether you do nothing or do something, I support you either way.
Right. Well, thank you. And I'm going to say our goodbyes when I stop the recording. But anybody that's looking for his links for some reason, ever since I've been demonetized, if I post a link in the description, um, they'll flag me for it. So if you go to my post, I posted a link last night to his Patreon and his X account. And if you have any more, you go to communities. If you go to my YouTube channel, go to communities. His links are right there on his X channel, on his Patreon account. And if there's any more links you'd like to give me, I'll post them as well.
That's good. I just want to let everybody know. The reason I set up that Patreon account is because this is to finance the brain computer interface committee, because we're not being paid. We're being ignored by our own country. And that's never happened before. That was just aired by Lara Logan with Brandy Smith, who's the BCI the chair head, who I work with. So if people look it up, they can see for themselves, and then they'll understand why. So I would thank you very much for allowing me to talk to your audience. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to start recording. I have one question for you when we get done.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time very much. Really appreciate it. And I hope we've reached the people we need to reach who need to take action.